We're doing another base tour today. Today it'll be Summit Argo. I believe this was technically made after Blandford, which will be the next one, but it actually got to Prestige 10 earlier because small base versus large. This was before the change, so the Prestige points were all standardized. So the small bases were needed even less than they do now, and were basically guaranteed prestige, but the large bases needed an honestly ludicrous number. It was way too high. Anyway, so we've got Summit Argo. You can kind of see from the preview. It has a pretty interesting preview. You can't see the full thing. It's a little bit too tall. I probably could have fixed that. But you can kind of see what's going on here. You've got this red critter at the front here. This was not too long after the hellscape deco pack came out, so I was trying to make good use of that because most of the use that I'd seen of it I wasn't really a fan of, which I think is just because it doesn't have a structural block. Like, it doesn't have a block that you can use like every side of it. It's always decorated differently on each side, which makes it somewhat difficult to use. So it ends up being really noticeable that it's the same pattern over and over, which is unfortunate because both the blocks that came in that pack were like that. As for Summit Argo itself, 9,000 gem mat for traps. That's not too bad. Traps is one of the best boost types, and that was a lot more relevant towards the start of the game. I think it's starting to lose relevancy now because a lot people that have been playing a lot, such as myself, have already reached the cap for advisor levels for most, if not all, of their advisors. What do we have here? We have 63 raid attempts. There's one social raid on there as well. That's why it's showing a +1 at the moment. It has 156 kills for a 2.4 ratio. Accolades, it has 38 fun, 10 brutal, 14 genius, and 23 artistic for a total of 85, which is roughly 1.3, with the highest being fun and artistic, which you can probably tell why it's artistic considering you can see the demons already. The fun is more just, we'll see that as we go through. Yeah, 1.3, that's pretty good. It's means that like every third person is given it 2. And everyone else is given it 1. That's, yeah, pretty respectable. It's hard to beat that. I've only managed it a couple times, so let's just jump straight into the gameplay. Okay, and we're back. Let's turn off the preview. So, yeah, it's a short base, fairly linear. Not too much to say about that. It's on a small base. There's not that much you can do with these ones. I believe this might have been a 1,000 to start with, off the top of my head. But I could be wrong on that. As you can see here, we've just got a marked tomb. I've also put these blocks here in because people just kept hitting this and then falling down and then taking ages to get back up. people on normal difficulty cannot handle the grappling hook very well. They do not know how to get around doing stuff like this on normal bases and putting like just a small platform so they can jump in and out easier. It saves so much time on replays. Down here, most people didn't bother exploring this because they'd already found the tomb and they realised that it was pretty well blocked in. These walls are actually all too thick because I'm trying to hide the fact that I use the hellscape block. I don't want people to see the aim, or like to see the theme of the base that easily. And because it's just a massive block of these grey stone, I decided to put on some locked windows on the sides, just so that it, this is from the DVD pack, I think. It's one of the least used ones of the DVD pack, and it just makes it look like this is like a building that has boarded up windows. I think it's good. As for the demon, this was mostly for the preview, just to make the preview look cooler. If I'd known that it was going to cut off the top, I would have made it squatter. But the, yeah, so it's all grey brick, I'm pretty sure, with the colouring all done through the use of the hellscape orange decal and whites for the teeth, and some yellows in the eyes, because I wanted the eyes to kind of glow, which they do because of the lights at the top, but they don't fully, which is kind of what I was aiming for. Whites for horns as well. The horns are just made from a simple mix of these diagonal blocks, similar to the teeth. The claws come out from, oh yeah, I made like a body. I'm not super happy with how the like neck and shoulder type things all line up. I don't think that's super well done. I think I could do better if I was working on it. I do kind of like the hands though. I know they have only 2 fingers, but they kind of look, the aim was to make them look like claws, and I think they do look like that. It looks like it's like kind of grabbing and grabbing forward, and I put one of them on top of the base here because I thought that looks cool. And you'll notice that if you've seen the Pontoon Beach video, I talked about how I was using this up the other way as a religious symbology type thing in the like Pontoon Beach, which is a church, and I've got it upside down here because, you know, it implies the reverse and is similar to how this type of thing is done in the real world, honestly. Some lights as we go in. We'll come to that when we get to the end. In here, at one point I did have some second wave, I think this and this were second wave hollow cubes that you could drop down under, then put traps in, etc. But the problem is, the direct path is this. The direct path is the path most people will take, and yeah, these were both off of the direct path. It just happens to be because of the bedrock spawn and where I placed the base, these aren't going to work. So, decided against it. I think the rest of it works fine. I considered putting some traps in here a few times, particularly second wave traps, and this is the only one that ever really came to be. And it's just because when you're coming from this direction, you can see that super clearly. This not super clearly, but I also really liked having that on it pointing the way. So I didn't want to give that up, which I would need to if I wanted to put a trap there. So it's really only here maybe here. But as you're coming from like this direction, you will see those pretty quickly as well. So any like single trap is not really going to be efficient in this room. So I just left it as this one, because if someone's worried about, you know, what's up here, is there something out here that's going to get me on the exit, sometimes you can catch them with that. And it's really funny. It's not super great, but it's at least 30 capacity, 35 capacity because of second wave, right? Yeah, 35 capacity. It's worth 35 capacity for that. And it was one of the last traps added, so there's not a lot else I can do without knocking this into dangerous. Now, this guy down here, you notice that I didn't deal with him when I was running through. Here's the trap with the most kills. This section here probably has the most kills out of everything, and it is not necessary to deal with at all. This part up here, like the reason it goes up a little bit is to try and put you into his vision range. He'll see you sooner and have a cleaner shot on you. It's a problem with going down for something like this, but that's the only way this would have worked. I suppose I could have lowered this. I could have lowered this and had him be on the level as him, and that could have made him more dangerous. But then there's bedrock here that I would have had to contend with, which I was trying to avoid. So I don't think that would have really worked either. So maybe I could have swapped him into there and done something else for that. Done something else on like here or here that to open this up a little bit, which it's an option, but this I was really happy with how this performed on normal. So what it is we've got a guard here, he's armoured. So because you're shooting from up down, armour on a enforcer like this, you will often hit the armour. It's hard to hit the back or head, and the legs comparatively smaller because of the angle you're looking at them at. There's also a hollow cube here, so if you drop down, you will fall through the hollow cube and into the acid. Most people don't fall for that. When you're already jumping, people are more prone to catching those and jumping out of them, because they're already thinking about jumping, as opposed to if you're walking and then happen to fall. Even on normal, they'll often catch this one. What ends up actually killing them is the spike trap that's covering that guy. The spike trap here, I'm pretty sure there's no mods on it at all. It catches so many people. Especially seeing as they often use at least 2 ammo on this guy. Because you'll hit the armor with the Vault Lancer and then you have to shoot him again, and then you have to go clutch your ammo. But obviously the best way to deal with it is to just ignore it, walk right past, because he only threatens like this area here. It's real bad. This here, double down hunter. This hollow cube is like pitch perfect and increase range, because I need it to hit. Does it hit here? Yeah, I need it to hit the whole way. I think technically you can dodge it by going like all the way up here and hugging this wall, but no one ever hugs the walls. There's a lot of things you can do where if you hug the wall, you'd be safe, but it's rarely ever actually happens in practice. Both of these have got Hunter on them. Both of the bolt shots. This one gets a lot of kills because people tunnel vision on this one and just don't, because they're not passing close enough to that wall, they just don't notice it because they walk past and then they get killed. Because you can get killed about here, you really need to like get into this corner to survive that if you're going to not do anything to deal with it. yeah, some lighting around, and here we have the transition. We're going from the grey stone of the actual outer building into the actual hellscape deco pack. So I've put a lot of this, I put some of this blood from the slaughterhouse pack and some of the blood from the hellscape pack to make this more of a transition rather than just straight up becoming this orange block. Although it's kind of awkward because this is red and this is orange. Whatever. It's not color matched, it's still good enough for the transition for my purposes. As you come down, you'll notice there's a what's it called? Corrosion cube here. And you'll also notice that with the hellscape blocks, these are all different edges of the hellscape block. So I think that and that are the same edge, but they're rotated. I think that and that's also rotated on that too. These slopes are like this one is 180 to this one, and then repeat here. This block, oh no, yeah, no, they're the same as this because they're the slopes. But there's a lot of, I put a lot of effort into trying to make it so that there's a bit more variation in the walls. They're not constantly repeating, because constantly repeating looks constructed. I'm trying to make it look like it's more organic, and organic structures don't have a tendency to be as tessellated. Repeating, obvious. The patterns are more random. Probably the best way to put it. Now, as we come around this corner, you'll notice the spike trap, bolt shot that I destroyed. This here, which is just making some noise. There's a few more of these, and we start using the other hellscape block as well. So that gets worked in to the rotation of what's going on. And a hollow cube above us. This is Masquerade Picture Perfect. Yep. I don't know why I put Picture Perfect on all these hollow cubes. It adds to the danger rating and doesn't really do a lot when new players can't spot it regardless of whether it's there or not. But what's happening here, there's a guard up here. He has Dead Man Switch. He is pathed to walk over the corner here, up here, and it used to be that he would just walk in here and drop down, but the nerf to the corrosion cube damage broke that, so I now have him stand on there, and I'm just going to test from here. I know that we've already done the gameplay, but I just want to show off what actually happens. So, if I go down here, trigger this and back up, he falls down, dies, and yeah, slides and gets to like here, and because he doesn't have an attack activation, you don't see the danger warning that you would normally get on the screen. So a lot of people see this firing going into the wall, think that it's safe to come down, they get to here and they get blown up by that guy because he's designed to explode when he gets to like here. It's been surprisingly effective, and it's probably responsible for a vast majority of the ingenious accolades, which were relatively high on this base. This is just a simple bolt shot. There's no point me putting anything on here because nothing here really is effective. Like this is a short range. Hunter's just gonna have it hit here at best, honestly. There's no reason to put anything on this beside. Maybe double down would have been useful, but I don't think anyone's ever actually going to be caught by it, so I don't think double down's going to work. Anyway, yeah, so we've got these. We're continuing the random placements and try to avoid repetition. I see there's a little repetition there, but it's probably hard. It's kind of hard to avoid sometimes when you're looking at, when you want, say, like I wanted a clear block here, and I wanted this here. sometimes you're going to have some repetition because of how these decorative blocks work, which is all, once again, just comes down to there's no structure, there's no structural block, there's no block that is just blank, that is roughly the right color and texture that I could use instead. I've got this little triangle here. The reason this is a triangle is so that Harvey can path over it correctly. I could probably have been a couple of... Oh yeah, no, I remember. It was a triangle because if you hug the right wall, as a triangle this Plasma Sentinel can shoot, whereas if it was a full slope, it would actually almost always hit the top of the slope, even and if I ever put Plasma Nova on it, which I think it does have Plasma Nova. Plasma Cloud, yep. The Plasma Cloud would be like here, whereas I wanted it to potentially have a sight line where it could actually hit back here and kill the player in a what would generally be a fairly safe spot. This was before the Plasma Cloud nerf, but that's why this is like this instead of just a ramp up and a ramp down. This thing here, it is very efficient at what it does, but a lot of people do notice it. Like it's pretty obvious. Like you can't, but you kind of can't get a sight line on it until you're pretty close. You can pretty much trigger that Plasma Sentinel, but then you can back up if you decide to deal with this immediately. What it is supposed to do, as you come across here, it triggers, and the aim of that is to delay you ever so slightly when dealing with this or that. So this is just a movement speed and plating. I actually think movement speed is better on warmongers than attack speed, because movement speed will often get them to cover the distance they need but to actually make the attack faster, and that messes with people a lot more than the attack speed does, I think. Because the attack speed seems to be more about delay rather than, like, so the time before the second attack rather than the time of the first. And in here you can really see the focus on non-repeating sections. Like, that and that are the same side, but they're facing different ways. That one there is that one there. I think that and that are the same, but that's got one of these squishy things on it. And even like this one and this one, which are both got squishy things on them, these are different sides of the block. And we've got some of the other, that one there and that one there, and that one there, are all actually the other block rather than the one that I've primarily used. Yeah, so big focus on that, and yeah, even just like a squishy thing on the floor here as well. Because we are on bedrock, this is the bottom of the map. As we come up here, there's a bot shop here. This thing occasionally catches people, but it's not super great at it. It's too easy to notice as you're coming up, as opposed to if it was on a flat wall, it would be harder to see and would actually probably be more efficient. Like if I remove this and just had it on that wall there, you might not even notice that the roof is a little bit higher. This thing here catches people all the time. This as a hollow cube at this, like, we are one block up from bedrock, from the actual like bottom of this map. This is not suspicious at all, besides the fact that it's behind the gen mat. People grab this, run out all the time. It has Hunter, I believe. Yep. So it can shoot to about here. Sometimes top ones, I believe, can hit about here. It's dumb. It's real efficient. for what it is, and you would think it would be more obvious, but we're just so far down that like a bedrock block here could be legit fairly easily. On the way out, there's not a lot though. I think it's just, there used to be a trap here. Took that out because it was putting it up to dangerous, and this base would not function, doesn't function as a dangerous base. It's clearly designed to be a normal. It does not have the doesn't have like that good trap set up to really work at dangerous, and because dangerous typically is played by people with higher skill, you just get destroyed all the time. Alright. So anyway, yeah, so this was left as a normal base, and that trap had to go. Anyway, that's it for Summit Argo. It's just going to quickly leave it on this while we're signing off. That's it for Summit Argo. Next time it will be Blandford, and this one will remain on social until such a time that I need the space, in which case I'll update the description. But yeah, next up will be Blandford, and I shall see you then.